What this whole scandal has done is cast a spotlight on the legitimate and one of the fastest growing industries in education. That's college consultants. Now, there are now 8,000 private educational consultants in the U.S. That's quadruple the number of just 5 years ago. Revenues are estimated at about $400 million a year. If you add in test prep and tutors, the numbers are estimated to be close to $12 billion a year. Now, college consultants say that William Rick Singer, that's the guy we were just talking about, the man at the center of this cheating ring, he was just a bad apple in an otherwise important industry that helps guide students in their college process. Now, demand is soaring for kids of younger and younger ages.
Every other day, I have a second grader or a third grader parent, family calling me asking what can we do as a second grader to help with the college admissions process. And I say there's nothing we can do. The only thing for you to do is that your child do what he wants to do. If he was interested in art, ceramics, painting, music, let your child explore those passions or talents and then take it from there.
Now, many advisors charge around $15,000 a year, with others charging by the hour at over $1,000 per hour. Most expensive programs can run to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some estimate that college consultants are used by 1/4 of the students at private colleges. Now, the advisors say their focus is helping kids figure out what they want in a school, steering them to the best fit, and giving them a roadmap to get there. And the bull market is likely to continue. The acceptance rate at Stanford was 20% in 1994. Now, like many schools, it's under 5%.
Is that because there are so many more people applying, or because so many of the slots have been bought off?
So many more people applying. You've got a lot of the overseas students now applying. And what this guy told us yesterday is that the calls since the scandal have just exploded. So this has been, and I expected that a lot of existing customers would want to call and make sure they're not doing this and maybe be skeptical about the industry. He said there has never been a bigger day than the day after the scandal.
People didn't realize.
And this is all part of the debate about, do the wealthy who can afford these things have an advantage when you're applying to all these schools?
Well, to me, it's brought up the question of this kind of slippery slope and what's okay and what's not. Clearly, if you're paying a $1.2 million bribe and pretending like you were involved in sports and activities that you were not involved in, that's a pretty clear-cut case.
And some of these programs where it's hundreds of thousands of dollars are actually...
what are they giving you?
Well, some of those are getting you internships, valued internships, and I'm not quite sure how that works. So they're actually, some of those, getting you into programs that help you in college. Not getting you into the college, but getting you into the internships, the overseas philanthropic trips, that kind of thing that can help.
Under 5%, it's just, that's so hard. I mean,
it's almost getting to like preschools in Manhattan.
No, I've seen it. I talked to Andrew about that. I'm so glad I went to Colorado. They were glad to have me. They were like, come on out. And then I was in Boulder, and it was, it just seemed so much simpler. Anyway, we're back with our guest host, Eric Cantor, who went to about 6 different schools. You're so overeducated at this point. But what do you think of?
Look, my view is the college admissions process is so opaque that, we really need a little bit of transparency here, because it's almost as if this was waiting to happen, because no one really knows what goes on. And, your child, because I've had 3 that have been waiting for that email to come to find out whether they're in or they're out. And I just think the opacity is something in today's world with transparency, and it's just not existing.
Are you saying that as a former lawmaker, saying there needs to be more opacity?
Less opacity.
I mean, sorry, saying less opacity, but are you saying it from a regulatory perspective?
I wouldn't doubt that somebody in Washington begins to start to think, look, we've got a lot of federal funds flowing to these schools. And if this kind of shenanigans is going on, maybe we ought to take a look at what these processes are really about and what kind of transparency we can afford.
And that's why this Harvard lawsuit is just so riveting, is because it was the first window into what Harvard actually does to select its students.
Right.
And it is such a mystery, and that's why these consultants are just making so much money, whether they've got the formula or not. There's no detailed list of here's what you have to do.
The Harvard lawsuit that was brought by people trying to look at the racial breakdown.
Correct, but it also revealed how much they give to legacy, how much they give to big donors.
Is an issue, but then I just think I get back to the money involved with college sports, and there are some the top schools will let people with a C average in if you excel at a certain sport, which allows them to sell tickets to that sport, which allows them I mean, the one thing that seems to be the one thing that's common to all these discussions is money. Money,
Yep.
and does that somehow make this whole thing sort of tawdry?
And what's happening now, I was reading some articles, is a lot of the colleges are making a proactive effort to go after underprivileged children, kids from different socioeconomic backgrounds, because clearly the system is now rigged to the top.
But the $1.2 million that one of these families paid to make sure their kids got in, would it have been okay if they gave $1.2 million straight to the school?
It would have been okay, but it wouldn't have guaranteed anything. And what you realize in this suit is $1 million doesn't get your kid in anymore.
Are you sure?
Yes.
It does some places.
At some places, but if you look at those telephone transcripts, what the guy says is, $1 million doesn't cut it anymore, and there's no guarantee. He said, can get you a guarantee of getting your kid in.
Oh, and by the way, then you can write it off as a charitable giving.
And then you write it off as charitable giving, exactly.
For the double greed.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So, and a lot of it is foreign giving to these universities that has just ratcheted up the price of a donation that gets your kid in.
Right. You know, I've thought about overseas students coming in, and I know that's one thing, but if you are a state school that's taking state funds, how shouldn't you be basing a percentage? Like, I know Mitch Daniels has looked at this.
That's a big issue at the state level. I know in Virginia, there's
Purdue won't let as much come in.
Constant debate, and I think maybe 1/3 are allowed in from out of state at the Virginia state schools. Some in North Carolina, for instance, it's a lot smaller than that.
It's almost 50% in some places, but they are cracking back at a lot of places because it's more profitable. You can charge them more money.
USC, which is prominent in this case, USC. People said, when did USC get so hard?
They did.
Yeah. Well, because because of financial needs, they reached out to so many out-of-staters and out-of-countries that it became really hard for a California resident to get into USC.
It used to be UCLA, USC when I lived out there, and now it's. I think SC might at least on par now with UCLA in terms of how hard maybe even harder to get in. It's amazing.